Well, guys, kind of a big deal today. Started shooting a little primer and gonna flip the camera around so I can show you where I'm up to. This little dirty deed. Anyway, anyhow, I got some adjustments to do now. I've glassed this stabilizer before I prime it. I just got a little bit of fine sanding. And a lot of you guys probably are wondering what the hell I'm doing here. Well, I want these lines to disappear when they're on the airplane, and they will. But now I'm going to show you why I fill before I actually go through and do my glassing. And thanks to a couple people for sending me some pictures. I've got the wrong tail on this airplane. We're going to actually cut it into we actually need to cut this in and flare it. It doesn't come out like this. So if you did this, my bad. Anyway, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to finish the filling in here. I didn't finish that on purpose because I've been looking for pictures. And this is not the right tail for this model of airplane. Now, I want to bring in some attention in this area right here because it does actually slope off. And so it actually does wrap around in here as it is. So if you guys did do this, that's fine. But whoa, easy boy. She's big 9-foot airplane just about took a hangar crash. But anyway, another thing I did too is because I did a two-piece and because of the way I did my canopy, kept breaking this off. So I'm actually going to glass this all in like I did up here, and I'm going to show you why I did this way. And again, I want these lines to disappear when you get them because the actual scale line is back here somewhere. Now, the one thing is this is all around until it gets about right here, and then it takes a real gradual push like there, and you can't see it in this. And you got to look at the model you're building of airplane. Now, the A model did do this, and this is an A model, guys. So be very careful of what you're building. The A model did not have a full moving the whole thing. You could do that if you really got ambitious, but I don't recommend it. And another thing, guys, is that I started doing my tunnel. And a lot of guys have been questioning that tunnel and why I'm doing it this way. And I did go ahead and do the top of the nose in glass. I just put the first coat on it, and as you can see, it's starting to kick already. It's a little warmer today. Now, I am doing my tunnel like this. That looks a lot worse than it is on camera, guys. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just glassing it, and then I'm going to skim coat it with some filler, prime it, and try to make it look as good as possible. That can be a real nightmare all the way in it to do it. And I just am like, what the hell? So anyway, the nose is looking good. This is just a little bit of a snag. I got watcher brushes. I mean, I didn't do my good practice. I got in a hurry so I could get this started because my goal is to have the front of this airplane glass so I can set it aside. Now, what I've done here, I've got a freaking disaster. I'm working on real airplane cowlings in here while I'm doing this. I'm waiting for paint stripper to work on that thing, which is a nightmare. And I've got this. I'm waiting for the canopy on that. I got wings to finish up and build. I got those damn things sitting on the floor, but then we got this. And this, I moved in. It's fine. This is the first coat. And as you can see, guys, it turned out really nice. And so we're moving right along. Before I primer a lot of this stuff and start getting things, I've got some parts primered and some that are not. Now I'm using a filler primer, and guys, I'm going to show you when I block these. They look real nice and straight. I assure you, they are not. I mean, almost every bit of that primer will sand off on that. So, and yes, those are real propellers and those real landing gears and tools laying all over the place. And I do need to clean this shop up and get it cleaned up and reorganized, start building some tables. Now, Guys, I am considering this part of the build almost complete. And as soon as we get the wings done and all this, then I'm going to start a new series about detailing this jet and what that all is going to entail. And I want to show you what I'm doing with my excess resin, just so you guys know. I'm actually fuel proofing the wood in here where the gas tanks set in, and they sit in right there. And what I did is a little bit of extra resin put in, and as you can see in here, I've already started putting in the foil on there just in case there's some flammage, it doesn't come out and burn the wood. And there's a lot of little things I haven't shown you, but as I said, and I just want to bring it, and a lot of guys have been asking in PMs and stuff like that. And I strongly encourage, if you have any questions, please do message me. I love it. I enjoy it. I mean, made a new friend over in I forget where he's over in Europe. Carlton, who's been watching us, is getting ready to get his kit. And a lot of really good things have come out of that. I mean, together we've already figured out the rotating landing gear, and it's because of viewers and people like that that are actually going to see some really cool things coming out. Now, a lot of the things that I haven't shown on this build, I'm showing you now, and there's little things I'm doing on purpose, like this little spot. I will sand this off. I've made some fillets in here, but what I need to do in here is actually start fitting this stuff and then start doing little bits of filling and priming and little things like that. And as you guys know, I love to fill all this stuff first. If I know I got a booger, and believe me, I've got a lot of them on here. I'm not perfect, but the one thing is that once you come down, you look down the sides of this, you're going to be cool. Another viewer called me on my air brakes, and the one thing is, and you know what? After I measured them, got to cut them down. And asking me about the droop. Now, okay, guys, I'm going to show you on the front. These actually do have a slight fall to them, but it'll be even more evident once it's done. And I'm not done with that build part of that because we got a lot of little mechanisms to be done. Now, one thing that I did order was an extra set of these hinges. And the reason is because these are going to be the landing gear door hinges on parts of it. The ones that goes up, I'm going to cut them down, I'm going to glue them down and just channel them in when I cut the bottom out of this here for the actual gear doors. And we're going to start doing a lot of that, but I encourage everybody to kind of watch and see what I do next, because this is where we've done all this work. And if you look at the front of the airplane, it's pretty freaking wicked. It looks like a freaking shark coming at you. And it's neat to look down through that tunnel down there and see all the way through it. And there's going to be some really cool stuff that I plan on doing for the rest of this airplane. So I'm hoping that you guys will see. Now, I glassed this because I want to be able to take this off and not see all these seams. And basically what I've done is just put some 1 ounce cloth over it. It may or may not add a little bit, but I filled this nose before. And I want to show you guys something that I think is very important that you see, because a lot of guys are not sold on the fact is that I fill this first. But I want to show you guys this because, guys, the Bondo soaks in that epoxy. And you don't have to be absolutely 100% perfect in it, but you don't want big voids in there that are going to sit there and make your fiberglass float. Now, I did put a review in on Facebook today about the Mersets airplanes. And I'm going to stand firm on one thing that I did say, and this is not a first timer's airplane, because you're going to have some skills in order to come out and know what it takes to scratch build certain things. But nothing on this airplane is on it. It's not. Um, it's not a big deal. I mean, get in and go. And I want you guys to see that shadow, because you're going to see it even more so right there. That's that shadow that you see, that kick up that comes in there. And I strongly would also advise that before you guys get too overly crazy, make sure you got a little things done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the front half of the fuselage, and why that is actually kicking, I'm going to work on cutting this and getting the doors straightened out, because they're too long. They're the right height, but they should only come back to about right here. And that's not a big problem, because I'm going to make this removable. I'm going to glue it into place. But then again, what I plan on doing is I'm going to take and I'm going to mold some fiberglass on that, and I'm going to cover this in ABS and put the holes in it to make it look kind of real. But anyway, but there'll be a servo arm that comes up there, and that again is what, if I keep picking everything up right, then these I will cut down, and I will simply cut them in and glue them to where there's one here and then another one right here that'll work on the servo arm. And technically speaking, if your arm is moving like this, it'll push this open, and when it moves back, it simply pulls it closed. I'm going to make a fake rim with this, and I'm going to use some plastic parts to use, and there's little things I'm going to do, and I am going to double these up. That's why I ordered another set. So they should be here any day. And once they're there, then I'll start working on these parts again. And you'll see what I'm actually talking about, because sometimes I don't even know. Now, I think one of the big things that we're working on is getting everything to fit so that these things are very tight and very nice. And the one thing is, there's a lot of sanding, a lot of work to do, and there's work to do here before we actually go. But I'm going to tell you guys this: with this stuff glassed and glued with 3/32 skin, some guys asked me about going a little bit thicker, and that would be 3 millimeter, by the way, 3 millimeter thick. I want you guys to understand, guys, I have never built in any of the airplanes I'm built, and I'm not knocking any of them. So there's my disclaimer. This is one of the very strongest airframes I have ever built. And I work on real airplanes as well as these. I own a couple. These are what I do. And guys, this airplane had the number one that wasn't really even all that well detailed. I mean, it was built to fly. And Damiano flies the crap out of that thing. He's probably got 400 flights on it already. And I want to show you guys again, because guys have asked me about this two-piece fuselage. This is not tight. And it's not tight on purpose, because I want to wrap this, and I'm going to make this disappear. Takes a little bit of body work. It's going to take a little bit of epoxy to get these edges, and I am going to go on that part. I am going to glass. Oh, I got dirty. But anyway, I am going to glass the whole outside part where that goes in, and I will primer it and make it nice. And I will come up there and dress all these edges up just a little bit. Now it looks like a really big gap, but it's really not, because you're going to be putting some resin in there and this and that. And it's planning. It's just the simple planning. Once you get the resin on here, you're going to have to come back and sand these off, and it's very fast. This stuff sands amazingly quickly, but you want to make sure you're doing these other parts and making them. You're making sure that this is your finished work before you primer it. And when you do get done primering it, you're gonna really start to get excited. And I'm sure a lot of you can hear it in my voice. I'm seeing the part that I really love to do getting ready to start to happen. And that's details, that's panel lines, that's everything. I mean, that first panel line, once it goes in, is right about in here. And that's why I've not installed my guns yet, because I want to make sure that it's cut right where that, if you look over there, that line that's on in front of that deal, right in front of the canopy there, that little hook, that is where this whole thing was a hood. And this whole entire piece came off of that. So we're going to have to camouflage it. But at the same time that did, there was a line there. And then you take your 70-second drawings and you measure those. And you measure it by 0.25. You divide it. It's a quarter scale, and that'll tell you where they go, and that'll tell you where every line is. But believe it or not, guys, you're gonna want to start off that one line, because this panel line that's on here, the one that you put on here is actually going to be right around in here. The nose cone on these things is pretty big, and then this whole area will get a panel line that goes, it's pretty good size, and it's a little black nose. So my plans for paint job is going to be probably, more than likely, I'm either going to go with a UK Britain paint job, or I'm going to go with, I'm finding out that the airplane that was camouflaged as US Air Force was not actually used in combat. So I want colors. I don't want a silver airplane. To me, it looked cool. It's all chromed in this, but you know what? Camouflage is going to hide every screw up I ever did on this. It is not perfect. But anyway, I like the British paint jobs. I love that green. I love that. I love the greens they used and all that. And I love the British markings. To me, that is the prettiest thing in the world. If I don't do that, I will do the German version, if not. But I want some really cool stuff. And I even absolutely have actually considered painting this airplane a custom, just a really cool custom paint job. I love the Tiger II paint jobs. But to go to Top Gun, I need to find an airplane that actually exists and have pictures of it. So that's what I'm going to do. And I am using a filling type primer on this. And guys, you're going to need it. You will not believe just how much primer the first priming of this thing will take. Now, the Spitfire with this, and as hard as this is, guys, I thought very seriously about using a TK. But I'm going to just tell you guys something. This stuff is so freaking hard. I'm not kidding you. This stuff is like steel. And the alcohol method really soaks into that wood fiber. I mean, you can't even squeeze it. So basically what I'm using is a filling type primer over here. And I use Duplicolor. And this stuff, I used it on, guys, I've used this stuff on the Spitfire, and guys, that's a pretty thick coat right there. But once this dries a couple days, it'll go from that to that. And I can wet sand that down with 220, and that's how I'll do this. I'll be using soft blocks. These things work good too, and I've used that on several airplanes, but this is the way to roll. These little finish blocks right here, get yourself some wet and dry, buy good quality stuff. That's all I'm going to tell you, because you do it, you put a little soap in the water, a little Dawn dish soap, bam, you're done. Denatured alcohol to keep wiping it off, keeping it clean. You're never going to have any issues. And that stuff doesn't shrink back near as much, and it's not a lacquer. Okay. This is the stuff you want to use. And it does sound easy. But guys, this is not a lacquer and it just seems to powder off. It is actually, in fact, an acrylic. So it's not expensive at all. It's less than 10 bucks a can. I used one can on these parts and part of that cowling over there. It goes a ways, but it does actually work well. And it will fill all these minor, if you put enough on. This front piece here will probably take a couple cans, but if you let it dry for a few days and let it completely dry and cure out when you get it, you'll damn near sand every bit of it off. So you're not adding a lot of weight, but it will actually fill all whatever weave parts you got in there and whatever else there is in this. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I do, and I only primed half of those. Okay. I did on one side, I'll flip it over and I'll hit the other and I'll let them dry for a while. I'm in no hurry for this until this is all done and ready. I won't put any panel lines until every one of these panels is done and it's ready to go, because there's some critical measurements that go into the tail. And there's a lot of lines and a lot of panel lines in that. There's a lot in here that you don't see. And the funny thing about the F86, if you see any up close, you don't see a lot of real visible panel lines on it. But what you do see are some raised panels, and there's a lot of other little things. So we're getting geared. I'm really getting geared up to come in here and actually start kicking this thing right in the ass. And this is where I get excited. It's been 9 months of build time on this thing so far, and we're starting to see a lot of really cool things happen. Now, the next time you see this, I will be actually going through and actually glassing certain parts of this thing and getting them, but you do have kind of a window in time. And I'm going to show you how I stagger my edges on there, because I don't worry about that, because I am going to put 3 coats of resin on this. Even though a lot of guys say, oh God, that's a lot of weight. No, it really isn't, because we're sanding a lot of it off to get it flat. And I want that base. And as you can see, these parts look varnished. They really do. And they're smooth. I could primer this without sanding it at all. But the one thing is like I said, my pre-filling, it's really cool. And some scammer just tried to call me. Sorry about that. Anyway, guys, I just want to bring up, and I don't touch this spoilage too much until I'm ready to really fine tune all these edges. And like I said, I did put a coat of resin in on top of this wood in here, just so that when I primer it, it will accept it and it's not going to show a real nasty dry spot in there. And this was glassed over, and you're not going to see it, but you're going to see a little bit like that. And this is another thing. If it's rubbery, just leave it alone for a little while. It's been cold here, so we're not getting the stuff to dry done. But if you remember what I said about epoxies, the slower to dry, the better off they are. So let it cure. And that's why we haven't sanded this whole thing down and made a mess out of it yet. So anyway, there are a few little things going. A lot of guys have asked a million questions, and I love it. Keep them coming. You know, and it's like I said, you can friend me on Facebook. I post stuff on there too. And so, you know, I got a lot of friends. I got literally hundreds of builders that are out there watching, and a lot of guys that are busy with their own stuff. They're not subscribing or whatever, and that's okay. I did this specifically for the F86, and when we're done, we're going to do the 104 or non-disclosed yet. We haven't quite made up our mind on which one I can have next. And so this one is going to start seeing some really pretty amazing things. We're going to start building the spots for the landing gear doors, and that is going to require that we actually take and actually move some stuff over here. It actually will be right in here, and it's going to be real simple. So the door will actually come across here, and it will actually, this whole area is going to be framed out a little bit, so the door will open. It's a 4-inch wheel going in there, and then all these parts would come swinging up. And we did figure it out. Carlin and I, we actually did figure out where that wheel is going to sit in here. So this is not only is that going to get boxed in, it's going to get boxed over. And that's just because that's the way we're going to do it. We have a lot of things going in here. The fail-safe 20 will be here. The batteries will be here, along with everything else, GPS sensors, all this stuff like that. We got the fuel pump and all the engine management stuff that's going in here. Plus we have the strainer and other things going on in here. There's a ton of stuff going in. The fuel tanks, got to get them finished up, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that. And they're actually 1.5 gallons of fuel. They're big. So, and actually I'll show you one. It looks like crap right now because I have not had any spare Bondo to throw on it. And basically what I'm making is a plug, and it looks like crap because I have not sanded it off. All this is foam, and I'm building it up so we can come back in here. This shop is a mess. But anyway, I got to get this all done so that these pieces and parts will go. Once this is sanded down, I got to sand these down and make them fit in there and make them fit like so. And that's the size of the fuel tank that goes in. Of course, the turbine sits right in front of it. I've not decided whether or not I want to raise this up anymore or not. I don't know yet. But anyway, I'm going to get this done, and then we'll 2K primer that one, wet sand it down to probably 800, and then we'll send it over to Mr. Moore to go get a plug made for Kevlar fuel tanks. And a lot of you guys wonder, this hole in here, I put this in a 5-gallon bucket of water. And what happened was when I put it in there, and all this is all my scrap Bondo from all that, and it's on a foam block. I just glued it together and did this. So I'll straighten it up, and it looked okay, I guess. And yeah, it's a hideous thing right now, but you know what? I don't throw any of my fillers away, guys. I use them to make plug molds for other little things. And like, I'll show you quite a bit of the plunge molding when we start detailing, and the lights and all this other stuff in here. So we're really getting where it is. Turbine I'm running in here is a King Tech 180 for those of you guys that are wondering. Doesn't need one that big. You could probably use you could probably get away with 140. The airplane right now, as it is, way it sits right now, the whole entire airplane doesn't even weigh 20 pounds yet, guys. So it's not even that heavy. Since we've gotten a lot of sheeting done, I pick it up. I think this whole part right here without the wings on it is, so I don't know, it's what, maybe, I don't know. I doubt it even weighs, I don't think it even weighs 12 pounds. So with the wings on it and everything else, guys have asked me about that too. Yes, pre-wired. And what I've done here is I've added colors for different sizes. These are the elevator, and then this one back here is actually, in fact, that's the rudder right there. And I am going to be putting in plugs in here. That's why they're cut right. That's why this one's left a little bit long, and that's heat sheathing, and it's just a little bit of this to keep it together. And this is 12 AWG, 12 Ogden, or whatever you want to call it. And this is these are my elevator wires. It's silicone. It's called Tyvek wire, and it's actually it's it won't catch on fire. This is what we use in real airplanes. It's actually really it's real durable stuff. It just doesn't go, but that's what that is. And then the front harness I will make will come in, and then it'll plug in right in here. I'm going to make these things so it's all plugged in. I would put sockets in right here for the landing gear brakes and everything else. And there's also a bolt, okay, that goes in there. And you want to look through that, make sure you put your washers in it. Now, I put a part in backwards, this one. And so, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe on that one a little bit better. There are a couple washers, a couple guys asked me about. You want to put it through and just chase it through the drill. But I'll sandwich it into that wing once you get the wing bolts in there. One bolt's all it takes. And then, of course, I put guide pins in here. My guide pins are just 2 dowels that I put in, and I used a couple spare washers from the center kit to do it. And guys asked me, well, did you forget to put in some pieces? No, I didn't. One thing I want to explain to you guys. I could have beefed this up and made this twice as thick. And I could have remanufactured all this, but it was not necessary to do it. Another thing I want to show you guys real quick, those of you guys that are getting ready to build, and I know there's like 5 of you that I've been talking to. This is the one rib that you will not use when you do the 2-piece. This is frame 14. 2 of these replaces that particular one, and then it also gets beefed up like this, like that. And there's no point in having any more weight than you need. It doesn't move around, and if you glass it the way I'm going to do it, it should be more than enough. And guys, it ain't going to break right there. Ain't no way in hell it can. There's 2 great big guide pins that go in right there. And, or you could put 2 more bolts in there if you really wanted to. I'm not. I'm going to try to save as much as I can. And as far as gear doors and stuff, they will work. There's a lot going on. And another thing guys have asked me on fuselage, how did I determine the nose? Okay, guys, this is determining the nose. You want it to look like the nose of a freaking shark. This depends on the model. This is an A model, okay? It's thinner, it's sleeker. And another thing too that I wanted to bring up, because I did botch it up. And this is why I have so much filler on my nose, but since you need a little bit of nose weight anyway, I did not see a huge problem. And one thing that guys have been asking me about this is, okay, I started in the middle of this, and you can kind of see it up in the deal. And don't do it that way. Start on one side, go to the other, and then stagger them on both sides, because if you don't, you're going to have a big sharp point, and that nose is going to look weird. And it'll try your patience, and then you're going to want it filling it the way I did here, and that's okay. But the one thing is just you don't want to get too damn much weight on this. You want to keep this thing under. We're going to shoot for a 40-pound airplane. I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 50 because she's huge. I've never had an airplane this big ever come in under 50 pounds. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. And anyway, glassing started. Other things are done. We're starting to really kick this thing in the ass a little bit. And there are things you can do once she's glassed that are going to be even more easier to do. Because like I tell you guys, once this stuff is glassed, you got to be damn careful. like going over sand, and I've come to the point where I'm just terrified to sand any more of this airplane. So not on wood wise, and that's why I like to do my filling first and get it. And you can fill on top of this if you want to, and we will have to. So I'll show you all this stuff in the steps and what it's going to take to get all this stuff done. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you. Like, share, whatever you guys want to do, and we'll see.